There are more than 1,000 islands in the St. Lawrence River. Their beauty and legends have fascinated people for centuries. They're best explored from the air or from the water. The countless chunks of rock are small miracles of nature. Thousand Islands is the name given to one of the most impressive regions in the north of the American continent, in the border region between the United States and Canada, in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. Murray Isle on the American side of the river. The island's only inhabited during the summer months. The cottages are comfortably furnished, but aren't habitable in the winter. Betty Lamb has been spending her summers here since her childhood. She had planned to enjoy her retirement on the island, but things didn't pan out that way. It's a special morning. It's the 16th of June, and like every year, it's the day Betty Lamb starts work. She's been longing for this day for weeks. The mailboat from Clayton. After an 8-month break, it's the first time it's docking at Murray Isle, delivering letters to the islanders, as long as they've rented a P.O. box from Betty Lamb, Murray Isle's postmistress.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
How was your winter?
Oh, it was wonderful. How was yours?
Good. Only had to shovel once.
Oh, it's so good to see you. I only
to
had to
see you.
snow blow twice.
Oh, well, that's good.
Well, everything's good on Grindstone?
Yeah, what is?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing the bag up for me.
Well,
The post office is open for 2.5 hours every day.
Come on in. Quite a crowd here this morning.
The post office is the only public meeting place on the island. It's the biggest exchange for gossip, souvenirs, and stamps.
19 books. So there you go. Thank you so much. Pat, come and do this so that I can do the mail. Just write this up for...
Pat, a neighbor, has to stand in.
Okay, so if you could just deal with the merchandise. You know, I don't normally I have helpers here for that.
Betty urgently has to take care of the mail. The key and the mail bag are a matter for the boss, after all.
There really is a ton of mail today. Being first day, we got quite a bit.
There are only 2 other post offices like this one on the islands, and this one almost had to close for good in 2003.
I was on my way to a board meeting, and the secretary at the time, Rachel Cole, said, you know, our postmaster Sarah is leaving. I think you should take the postmaster job. And I said, I don't think so. And by the time I left the meeting, the whole board had talked me into doing it. In the 13 years that I have done the post office, only once did the mail come in the afternoon. We had a terrible, terrible storm. It was thundering and lightning and fog, and then they called me from Clayton, and I think the mail came in at 3 o'clock that day, but only one time did the mail not come, between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning.
Did you buy something?
no, I'm buying something.
There's a lot of mail.
Pat's business is going well.
Yes.
Which one?
The $15 one.
15, good Lord. Okay. All right, this is it's 14 and 15 for this and 14 for that.
That's 29.
29, and then 2 more is 30.
Yeah, but you have 21.
1. Oh,
I don't want to rip you off.
my mind isn't.
Terrible thing to lose.
Every morning here is different. They've got through the first one well.
And do you need change?
I need a quarter.
Yes, you do.
This island community is very special, and it's a lot of fun to be the postmaster on this island. It really is. Bye. Take care. Thank you so much. Oh, Pat, you forgot your mail.
Murray Isle's neighboring island is busy today too. Here on Grindstone Island is the largest beach and the only sandy one on the 1,000 Islands, Potter's Beach. It's a magnet for day trippers on hot days. The beach belongs to the 1,000 Islands Land Trust, TILT for short. This environmental organization owns 40% of the total island. Ken Deedy, the organization's founder, is Grindstone's unofficial island ambassador. Thanks to him, the beach is publicly accessible. Ken Deedy makes sure that nobody here runs riot. Just a few hundred meters away is Grindstone's popular birdwatching area. Ornithologist Gary Smith regularly monitors the population. He's a member of TILT, just like Ken Deedy.
So what do you see?
Basically, yellow throat, yellow warbler. There's house wren and catbird singing in here.
I saw 3 bobolinks earlier.
Yep.
They're all over the field here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they look in pretty good shape considering the fact that we've had this drought this year. And there's a lot less water in those potholes than usual, but it looks decent anyway.
Yeah.
The large species diversity on such a small area makes Grindstone special. The environment and tourism aren't contradictions for the Land Trust.
We're teaching people to respect the land. Sometimes it's difficult, but sometimes it isn't. Enjoying nature is not a bad thing. And if you have a place to swim and have a barbecue, that's a really good thing. But as long as you realize you have to protect the woods and you have to protect the wetlands and you have to protect the other things as well.
Grindstone is the 4th largest island in the region. It's more than 11 kilometers long and almost 5 kilometers wide. While the shady northeastern slopes are often cold and damp, the southwest slopes benefit from the sand and wind. That's why a New York construction entrepreneur had the idea of growing wine here. 6 years ago, he commissioned Julie Tinney with the job. The island resident had no experience with wine at the time.
This is Grindstone Island, and we're just typically not that type of people. You know, we just are unique kind of people. I've been brought up to sit on the deck and have a cold beer after a hard day's work. So learning to drink wine has been a very difficult thing, but it's fun. It's neat to learn more about the taste and the aromas of the wine.
Learning by doing applies to working as a wine grower too. They spent 6 years experimenting with the Pinot Noir grapes that are popular in Europe. But they're very delicate. It was a big challenge with winter temperatures dropping to -30. But then they had the idea of wrapping the wines in thermal blankets in the winter, and that was successful.
This is a big day for Grindstone Island Winery. We are now selling our very first bottle of wine today. We have worked to get our labels accomplished. We've had a difficult time trying to decide what the label is going to be, but we finally accomplished that. We got them yesterday, and we are now bottling our wine, and its labels are on it and ready to go. We're very excited.
The small vineyard produced 330 bottles. It's the first time that their wine has been for sale. Up until now, it's only been the owner's hobby. They say they're not interested in making a lot of money. This is less about profit than about attracting guests to the island.
There's really no laws over here. We kind of do our own thing, and everybody has respect for everybody over here, and we just look out for each other. You know, we do have a township over here, but they understand that it's very difficult to come to an island to try to put the law enforcement over here. So we just kind of mind our P's and Q's and do the right things, and we raise no flags, and we're a quiet community over here.
The first white settlers arrived on Grindstone in early 1800. The tombstones in the old island cemetery tell their story. Ken Deedy and a historian are looking at the stone evidence. The Land Trust doesn't just take care of the environment, it also looks after the island's cultural heritage.
You try the water and I'll eat a mulberry. How's that?
You want a mulberry?
Sure. They're pretty good. This is the only time of year you get them. Birds get them usually first. More lichens.
1886.
Yeah.
December. Oh, she died on Christmas.
December 25th?
Yeah,
Wow.
Christmas death. So she was 18.
She was 18, so one died at 16, one died at 18. Wow.
And at Christmas, no less.
On Christmas, that's a difficult thing. Yeah, see, if you got sick on the island then in December or January, you can't get off because the river is only partially frozen. And they didn't have airboats then, naturally. They would have to have had a sail, ice boat with a sail, or horses, or skis.
Looks like she died in 1893.
Yeah. So they're stuck here. So if she came down with something, she couldn't even get medical attention.
It's as if time has stood still here. There are only 10 families who live on Grindstone Island all year round. Rexford Ennis only spends the 4 summer months here. A journalist and author, he mainly writes for local magazines. He has an obsession. For many years now, he's tried to get to the bottom of the secret of the Skull and Bones Society, America's best-known secret society.
Skull and Bones started at Yale University in about 1832, and some of the great figures of our time were members, or are members, of Skull and Bones.
3 U.S. presidents, including George W. Bush, were members. His grandfather was a member and is behind one of the best-known legends of this secret society, the theft of Geronimo's skull. The famous Apache chief had spent years bitterly fighting the American army. The secret society wanted to humiliate the Native Americans with the theft.
It was stolen out of his tomb in Fort Sill around 1918 by 4 bonesmen, one of them being Preston Bush, and every new member has to kiss it. Well, you know, we don't know if that's true or if that's false, because the bonesmen don't share their rituals with the outside world.
The skull is said to have been taken to Deer Island, near Alexandria Bay. The island, with a powerful allure, has been in the hands of the secret society since the end of the 19th century, at first as a place of refuge, then as a hideaway. The houses right on the river prove as much. There are the remains of a building with a dark secret in the middle of the island.
That was what was called the Great Marinal Hall, and supposedly that's where the Skull and Bones carried out its rituals.
The stolen skull of Geronimo was used in those rituals too, but in the early 30s, a fire destroyed the building.
Well, the skull, we don't know that it ever came here. That's only the rumor. So, and if it did come here, it may very well have been destroyed in a fire. Skull and Bones claims that they don't have it, and who knows?
Maybe it's in one of the many caves that are said to exist on Deer Island. It's the most mysterious of the 1,000 islands. Strictly speaking, there aren't 1,000 islands. There are around 1,864, but that number fluctuates. The Canadians call a landmass an island if at least 1 square meter is above the water all year round and has at least 1 tree. If the tree falls over, the island's downgraded to an islet. Further downriver, on the American mainland, the sculptor and painter Michael Ringer has a studio near Alexandria Bay. In 1990, the art teacher from Buffalo took early retirement. Since then, he's lived off the sale of his art in his own gallery. His main motif is the river and the 1,000 Islands region.
I'm trying to capture the St. Lawrence River as it is in the 21st century. I want people to see the natural beauty that we have here. When you see those beautiful old antique boats that people have spent so much time restoring, I mean, that takes you back to the 1930s, and you go past an old Hutchison boat that was made right here in Alexandria Bay. That gives you a little bit of the feeling of the history.
The painter's fascinated by this mix of history and beauty. Michael Ringer's already painted a good 1,800 pictures of the St. Lawrence River. He keeps finding new perspectives and views of the river. He prefers painting out in nature, right on the water, in the morning or the early hours of the evening, when the sun coats the river in a special light. Ringer loves this atmosphere. He doesn't have to search for long for good motifs.
When it comes to painting, I pretty much have to be alone. I don't join any artist groups or guilds. I don't subscribe to any artist magazines. I want to be doing my own thing. And when I'm out here, I get in another world. I mean, it's just, you're just enveloped by the surroundings and you become part of it.
Michael Ringer says the St. Lawrence River is the most beautiful place that he's ever lived in. This is where he produces the sketches for his oil paintings that he will go on to paint in his studio. Or he paints his watercolors using water from the river. It took 10 years before he was able to work here.
If you're going to paint something with your heart, you know, you need to know it. And I didn't know it. I was a newcomer here. I came up here. The river was here. It was beautiful. I loved it and so on. But it was just too big and too much. And I was just all over the place. No, I couldn't do it. I tried, but I was overwhelmed by it. You know, there's just so much beauty here. And you have to really get intimate with it and swim in the water and fish in it and camp on it and explore it and get to know it. And then once you know it, then you can get a feeling for it.
Here too, near Clayton in the US, there are people working with river water, but for a completely different reason. Bill and William Garrett set up the St. Lawrence Spirit Distillery this year, a real family business. It's a job that requires the father and son team to have a lot of self-discipline.
We have a job where it's expected you have a bottle of booze at your desk.
We do start tasting at about 9 o'clock in the morning, but we very small amounts. We only are tasting a little teeny sample. Of course, it is the end of the day, so the samples get larger. But we don't drink enough to get drunk. We make sure of that. It's very good. Very happy with that one.
They grow the raw materials they need for their spirits on their own farm, the Lucky Star Ranch. The wild junipers for gin.
It's very difficult to harvest because as you see, you have to hold them up, and they're very prickly with the pine needles, and then you can only pick the purple ones. And lots of the plants, you'll see that there's 3 years of berries. There's going to be green ones, kind of in between, and then the only ones we want to harvest are the purple ones that are ready.
They've already established a sizable selection of gins, vodkas, and absinthe. Today, they want to bottle their first whiskey. If the alcohol content of the spirits is right, it's time for the magical moment. The undiluted distillate, with a 60% alcohol content, is mixed with filtered river water until it has the correct drinking strength.
Once we add the river water to the spirit, it is kind of special for us because it puts a spirit of the river in every bottle. That's what we use as our kind of our tagline. For us, it kind of brings full circle. We're on the river, we use the river in our beverage, and then we give back to the river to help keep it good for everybody.
The water in the St. Lawrence River also produces the special flavor. Once the alcohol content has been lowered to 40%, father and son allow themselves to have a try. It's the best part of their job.
We do have a lot of volunteers to be tasters. They all want to come doing the tasting, make sure that we're making it right. And yeah, there's no problem getting help. Let's barrel this baby. This is our very first barrel.
What's that?
All right. First barrel.
Good to go?
Turn the pump on. Give me some rye whiskey, buddy.
The whiskey only gets its dark color after being stored for long enough in its barrel.
I can't wait to taste this out of this barrel. Good going in, it's gonna be better coming out.
The Garretts will be able to try their new creation no earlier than a year from now. To taste the exclusive spirit of the river, it's not necessarily vital to drink it. It's possible to experience it too. 10 kilometers downriver in Canada, Hunter Grant, a Canadian and retired newspaper publisher, is on his way to the oldest club on the Thousand Islands, the Grenadier Island Country Club, established in 1927. The former president is being expected on the jetty by the current chair.
Hunter, is that you?
Many are club members in the 5th generation.
Thank you, fellas. I think we're sold out tomorrow with 12 on the waiting list.
Oh, good.
People come to the Grenadier Island Country Club to play golf. The entry fee is $3,500. The annual fee, $1,625. That's not actually very much for a special club like this, but the board has limited the number of members.
The golf is not overutilized, and when you come here, and you must come here by boat, you can't get here any other way but by boat, the place is special. It is just so different than playing golf in a club that's on the mainland. It's like a cattle herd that every 8 to 10 minutes there's another foursome teeing off. You just don't see this here.
Grenadier Island is Canadian, but the country club has as many members from the States as it does from Canada. And there's a reason for that. Grenadier Island is the only Canadian island with an entry telephone for US citizens.
This is our rather funky little cubicle. The phone now is direct dial, so you pick it up. It dials directly into customs. They will ask you some pertinent questions, and they'll give you a call-in number.
And hey presto, they're allowed to play on the 9-hole course. It's a system that's worked for years.
A survey was done of the members, and about 70% of them said basically, let's leave it the way it is. We like this club the way it is. So it is the way it is. And I would not be in favor of changing it into something that it's not.
Traditions are nurtured on both sides of the river. Those who don't have an island or a historical wooden boat can still dream of the luxury of bygone days. In the Boat Museum in Clayton, for example, Mike has come all the way from Gananoque to get ideas. Before he set up on his own as a boat builder, he worked in the Antique Boat Museum as a restorer for 5 years.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Robin.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good
You?
to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. What brings
Yeah.
you here today?
I was just headed over. Actually, my Brooke, who works for me, she got a project, Century, just very similar to this, and it's kind of a wreck right now.
Robin Lucas works as the captain for the Antique Boat Museum. She's the perfect person for Mike to talk shop with. The museum is home to lots of different types of boats from all eras that the rich and beautiful used to get to their islands. And the boats aren't just here to be looked at. Some can even be tested.
Mike, I've really got to get going, but
Okay,
I
yeah.
really have
Yeah.
appreciated your knowledge today. It's always
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, thanks.
From
It's
a
always
boat builder's perspective.
Yeah.
And
I always love coming to hang out with these boats. So
It's great. I always learn something when I see you, so thank you.
All right.
Take care. I've got to go do a tour.
Okay,
All right.
have fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya.
While Mike's still spying a little bit, a customer outside is waiting for her boat trip. Robin will take her on a historic trip across the river, past the sites on and underwater. Robin's guest is Katrin Schubert, a German doctor. She's lived in Gananoque, Canada for 26 years. Her cottage is on Murray Isle in the United States. Today, she wants to learn more about life on the river, the way it was in the past, with the border and the river.
Back in the Prohibition days, 1920 to 1933, it was very common to run alcohol, rum, over the border from Canada, because this was a great area that would just freeze solid because of the low, shallow water. They could get over quickly, and then they were home free, and they could run the alcohol, run the liquor into whoever had ordered it. And what was happening a lot was they would push the limit with the weather, and then the ice would begin to soften, and there are many Packard cars all over throughout here, full of sunken crates of rum. I've actually dove on a couple, and they're still there, and it's pretty neat.
Tour guide Robin knows even more stories of residents on the St. Lawrence River. Stories from bygone glamorous days in which all the hotels burned down, such as here on Calumet Island, where just the tower remains.
They didn't have electricity on the islands until the 1950s, so everything was gaslit. And of course, people smoking in the gas lanterns, it was just a tinderbox. And the name of the fireboat is The Last Chance. So you can imagine, that's about it.
Fire is still a real danger on the islands. Clayton is home to one of 3 modern firefighting vessels in the region. It still bears the name Last Chance. Justin Taylor from the fire department in Clayton regularly checks the equipment.
Everybody on the islands knows The Last Chance. It's very popular. Its name is very true, and a lot of times that's it. It is their last chance from a fire perspective, emergency medical services. So we go from a dozen year-round residents to thousands of seasonal residents and visitors, campfires that get away, brush and grass fires that get away, and we respond to those. Fortunately, not many house fires or cottage fires. I think that the people that live here year-round are very sensitive to that. They know the limitations. The seasonal folks, on occasion, things do get away from them.
Together with a young colleague, Justin sets off on a test ride. They keep their eyes open. Most of the time, it's medical emergencies during which they have to help. And if they're called out to a fire, they're prepared. The summers on the Thousand Islands can be very hot. Most of the islands have trees, but many areas are rocky and dry, such as here on Murray Isle, where Katrin Schubert has her cottage.
When I moved in, a neighbor came and said, "Don't even try planting flowers. The deer will eat them all." I wanted to try anyway, and so far it's worked quite well. I carried the earth here in sacks. You have a bit of soil, but not much, so I've added more. I add more every year.
Katrin Schubert was lucky when she bought the plot in the States in 2012. The dollar exchange rate was favorable and the price low. In contrast to Canada, the US allowed her to build her cottage close to the water. Different laws divide a region that's really one and the same.
The great Manitou, the god of the Native Americans, took a handful of earth and threw it into the water. That's what gave rise to the 1,000 Islands, although in reality there are almost 2,000. That's what gives this place this special spirit. Every one of the islands looks a bit different. The atmosphere here, because of the wind and water, is very special.
Katrin is a doctor. She has her practice in Gananoque. Every time she wants to get to her cottage, she has to cross the border into the United States. She can do that almost unnoticed on the water.
If I crossed by car, I'd have to wait a long time at the border in the summer because of all of the traffic. But by boat, it's easy. I get in my boat and I'm here in 20 minutes. I can call the States and tell them I'm coming and I'm heading to this island in this boat, and that's fine. I can head straight to my cottage. When I head over to Canada, I have to go to a special place. Someone might come and look at my boat.
On the American side, just a few kilometers away, is Hart Island, home to Bolt Castle, the original location for one of the many legends surrounding the famous 1,000 Islands dressing. Michelle Caron is actually a real estate agent, but now she sells the world-famous salad dressing.
The 1,000 Islands dressing was an idea that came to me from when I met some visitors from Japan, and they asked me why we didn't have the 1,000 Islands dressing as a souvenir. So I decided that I would find out the story of the dressing, and I knew it came from the 1,000 Islands. So I started to speak to the people of the 1,000 Islands.
The recipe was easily found. It's relatively simple and consists of just 6 ingredients.
First we start with the mayonnaise, and then we're going to put 2 tablespoons of chili sauce, a 1/4 cup of relish. The secret ingredient is 1 chopped boiled egg. And what I like to do is mix this all up together, and you'll see how it takes on the nice pink hue. The pickles in it are meant to represent the islands, and we'll add a little bit of parsley and a squeeze of lemon, and there you have it. That's it, very simple.
What was less simple was for Michelle to find out who created the recipe. 2 legends stubbornly persist about who the true inventor of the famous salad dressing was. One legend says that May Irwin, famous for the first kiss in film history, invented the recipe and passed it on to the castle's owner, George Bolt.
I have a copy of May Irwin's cookbook. May Irwin was a famous singer and performer, vaudeville performer in the early 1900s. And she also was very big on recipes and cooking. And she produced a cookbook in 1904, and I have the original copy of the cookbook, but nowhere in the cookbook does it show a recipe for the 1,000 Islands. So, for the 1,000 Islands dressing rather. So you would think if she was promoting it that it would be put in her book, but it wasn't.
Michelle is certain that Oscar Tschirky is the true inventor. He created the dressing when he worked as steward on George Bolt's houseboat, and he was asked to serve a dressing that represented the 1,000 Islands. Tschirky later became a chef in the famous Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, where the dressing began its victory march around the world.
It's a legend, but if you ask anyone in Alexandria Bay who started the dressing and how was it created, they'll tell you it was Oscar of the Waldorf, and it was made famous by George Bolt.
In Clayton, 20 kilometers away, the people have a different opinion. It's the largest and one of the oldest towns on the American side of the 1,000 Islands. It's home to the famous 1,000 Islands Inn, which plays a special role in this story.
This village of Clayton, and in fact the whole Thousand Islands, was a playground for the very, very wealthy at the turn of the 20th century, the end of the 19th century. And some of the rich people from New York and Philadelphia, some of the great magnates that you might have heard of, George Pullman and others, would come up here on their private trains. And when they weren't going to their private islands, they often stayed here at the Thousand Islands Inn. And one of the most famous people who stayed here was May Irwin.
That was the woman with the first kiss in film history. In 2013, Jamie Weinberg and his partner acquired the hotel in which the famous dressing was allegedly served for the first time. The would-be original recipe also came into their hands when they bought the property.
There is a document that we have in a safe deposit box that demonstrates decisively that the recipe that we have was the original recipe. It was called Sophia's sauce, for Sophia Lalonde.
Since she has used secret ingredients for her recipe, Jamie doesn't want to show how he makes his dressing. Even back then, it wasn't Sophia Lalonde who became famous because of the dressing.
The real story is that a local lady named Sophia Lalonde, who was the wife of a local fishing guide named George Lalonde, invented the dressing to go with the shore dinners that he would serve to his fishing guide guests. And it was served here, and it was discovered by the then famous actress May Irwin, who then shared it with George Bolt, and Oscar stole it.
The future chef of the famous Waldorf Astoria in New York, or Sophia Lalonde, who invented the famous dressing? It'll have to remain a mystery. The Thousand Island dressing made the name of this region famous around the world. Other traditions are equally as old, but are only just undergoing a revival, such as the river concerts. There's going to be one tonight in the Bay of Murray Isle. It has been organized by singer Monica Bian, who lives and composes here during the summer months.
The river calms me down, and I think we all need help with that. And there's a sort of timelessness once you get up on the islands here and you're on the river and you're watching the water flow. So I would say the inspiration is that how it makes me feel, and when I feel calm and peaceful, then the inspiration can come through. So, and it also inspires me because of it's never changing. It's constantly flowing no matter what's happening.
In the past, musicians often came together spontaneously here to make music on the river. Monica is continuing this tradition too, in the very own rhythm of the Thousand Islands.
The tempo of the river and the tempo of my music, as you probably heard, is very much the same. The constant flow and the subtle sound of the river is, I would say, a part of the personality of my music as well, no question.
Monica has arranged a barge for this evening on the water, a platform where the band can perform. The audience have come with their own boats. While the musicians are rehearsing, neighbor Katrin Schubert's shortest route from one corner of the island to the other is via the river. Even though she's lived on Murray Isle since 2012, this summer was the first time she set up her own P.O. box.
I just got a piece of mail for $240. I bought a smile, a child in Uganda, I think it is, because you get a cleft palate, and it's a game changer terribly. Over there.
Absolutely.
I mean, the child isn't invited anywhere, has difficulty eating, breathing, smiling. I got so shook up that I did
wonderful.
that. And it just, well, hot diggity. I'll go home now and spread the word.
Hi, Betty. Hello. Nice to see you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
We got to know each other.
Well, I live here. I want to be part of the
Do you
community.
get enough time that you're really able to be on the island?
Oh, yes. I spend a lot of time here. I come in April, I leave in October, and I'm here lots in between.
Oh my gosh almighty, that's grand.
I have box 30 that I prepared for you.
Great.
These boxes are semi-ancient.
Yes, they're
and
old-fashioned.
they're a little bit difficult sometimes.
The site of today's post office used to be the Murray Hill Hotel more than 100 years ago. It's the only one that didn't burn down. It went bankrupt and was torn down. The post office boxes seem to date back to that time.
This is your box over here. It's box 30. And these are the two dials. You spin them always to the right. The second one is the T. And that's the same. It goes between your T and your U. And hopefully it opens.
Yay!
You are.
I did. And
It
I have
opens.
mail.
And you have mail.
I will get my mail. And there's even a letter. Wonderful. And now I close it
Close
up.
it.
And then I need to
Spin it
spin
to
it
the
so
right.
nobody can get my
Spin it
mail.
to the right.
I'll spin it to the right.
Spin it to the right. It keeps it going in the right direction.
Between June and September, Catherine is at last connected to the world, but especially with her neighbors.
Oh, nice to see you
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye. And thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Bye, Betty.
Have a blessed day.
The final preparations for the river concert are underway in Eel Bay. In the past, the islanders met regularly here, tying their boats together and celebrating the summer.
This is such an amazing venue. You know, this they call it Manatuana, the Garden of the Great Spirit. And what a beautiful backdrop. We have the sunset behind us, and people can bring their own boats and picnics and have the concert outside. It's a lot of work to get all the couple of barges out here and to put the production on, but it's well worth it for everyone.
The concert is free, donations are welcome.
How are you doing tonight? I really can't hear you guys clap. Are you guys excited to be here? Yeah? Yeah, that's better. So, let the music start.
What are we gonna do about you? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about you? Oh, Ruby, what are we gonna do? Better take this time to get yourself together. Oh, Ruby, don't let the time take you. Oh, Ruby, don't let the time take you.
It's a first step to reviving a tradition.